It's had it before. That's at all.
It's 6.
I'm trying to record. No, come on.
Yeah, that's it.
So look, we're going to get to the final passage and we can do
Are you all ready?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for September 3rd, 2024 council meeting here in the city of York. For public comment this evening, we have Marilyn Hake.
Hi, Marilyn Hake, York City resident. I also discovered before I came here that I think there's something I want to ask some of you to do at one point. I had my 4-H kids today over at Good School, and I kept saying, come on, we got to get out at 5 o'clock. I have to go to city council. What's city council? It's how your government works here in this city, and they had no clue. So I may call upon you to come to one of our meetings over there and explain to them how it works.
Sure.
Yeah.
Love that.
Anyway, the reason I'm here, I was here at the last meeting, and this is in reference to resolution number 72. And this was brought to you by the Redevelopment Authority. And Joe Musso was here to present it. And what he asked for was nothing much. But what happened is a friend asked me, he was interested in a property, so he asked me to look it up to see if there were any liens or taxes. While I was going through the city taxes, I came across, the name just popped up. And it was the same gentleman who is working with Joe Musso on this project. And he had, what I came up with just looking, he had 6 properties, which I've gone by, which are all rental properties and occupied. And he owes almost $30,000 in back taxes. This is all public information, so I'm not saying anything that isn't. And obviously he's collecting rentals, that's one issue, and not paying taxes. But the other thing is, there's probably no law out there or ordinance, but I think when somebody is either doing business with York City and asking for things from York City, I think their taxes on York City properties should be up to date before they can come asking for things from the city. Like I said, it's just something that bothered me. There's reasons why taxes aren't paid individual folks. Things happen to people. But this is at least 6 properties, all of which are rentals, all of which are rented, and the taxes are not paid on them. One of them, he owes over $10,000 on just one property, and the rest of the almost $30,000 is made up of the others. This came from the Redevelopment Authority to you, and I guess I'm of the and I could be wrong, I can be corrected, but when somebody brings information to you, I would think whatever committee or department should have done their homework before they bring you the information. That's just my thought. I'm not sure what all you do once it gets to you, but I think you should be presented with all the information you need to know before you're going to make a decision from whatever department that is. I guess that's it. I just wanted to put it out there. It's kind of upsetting to those of us that pay our taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Up next, we have Marie Roletter.
Marie Rowley at 200 North Duke Street, and I'm here for the same reason I'm usually here. I was told at the beginning of the summer that the lights were being ordered, and I looked tonight when I came. There are no lights on the building out there. And pretty soon it's going to be dark when we come and go. So I think that needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments this evening? Okay. It is 6:04 p.m. and Madam Clerk, we will call this legislative meeting to order. Will you please call the roll?
Bub,
Here.
John Askew,
Here.
Dennis,
Here.
Buckingham,
Here.
Washington,
Here. May we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Action on previous meeting minutes. I make a motion to approve our August 20th, 2024 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That moves forward. We have no presentations, awards, or announcements this evening. Our next legislative meeting will be held Tuesday, September the 17th, 6 p.m. here in council chambers. All agenda items are due by 12 noon on September the 11th. Our council committee meeting will be scheduled for Wednesday, September the 25th at 6 o'clock p.m. here in council chambers. All agenda items will be due by 12 noon on September the 18th. We currently have no reports, and so we will move forward to our final passage of bill and resolutions. We have final passage of bill number 27.
So introduce. Move to approve, I'm sorry.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded.
And that is a bill that was introduced by Felicia Dennis at the last meeting of council, whatever. It's a bill amending the 2024 budget for the Park and Recreation Bureau by appropriating additional revenue and expenditures in the amount of $8,266 for a grant received from the York County Community Foundation.
Is there any council comment regarding this?
I would just like to thank the York County Community Foundation for, providing the support. The square looks wonderful right now.
Wonderful. Is there any comment from the administration?
No, basically just to reiterate, I'm glad the Community Foundation donated that grant to us. It's going to help maintain the seasonal plannings for the Parks Department and make the downtown look great all year long instead of just, spring.
It really revived downtown. It's absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Is there any public comment regarding this? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Is any of this money for the upgrading of the 3 parks that they were going to upgrade?
No, not this. This was separate just for the downtown area. Yes, ma'am.
The parks.
Okay, parks.
Are there any other public comments regarding this? Madam Clerk, can you please call the vote?
Bub,
Yes.
John Askew,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes. And that moves forward. Up next, we have final passage of bill number 28.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any council comment regarding this?
None.
I was just wondering if we could, for the benefit of the community, talk about the adjustment and why it wasn't budgeted originally. Thank you.
Sure. Essentially, it's been a work in progress with the help of Treasurer Jeffcoat to determine what, we were not given very good paperwork from the Sewer Authority about this property. So it's been a bit of a learning curve to determine exactly how much the taxes are yearly that we do pay and then bill back out to the leaser to reimburse us for. So this is just the next and hopefully last step in our learning curve and making sure that we have, and this is also a bit of a catch up from 22 and 23, so this should get us caught up. And again, working with Treasurer Jeffcoat, we should be able to put a accurate number in for 25's budget in terms of what we're going to need for all real estate taxes associated with the 1601 Tornita property.
Thank you.
Is there any other council comment regarding this? Any further comment from the administration? Is there any comments from the public regarding this matter? Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Bub,
Yes.
John Askew,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes, and that moves forward. Moving along, we have final passage of Bill number 29. Move to approve.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any council comment regarding this matter? Is there any comment from the administration?
No, I just wanted to point out that on behalf of the police department, these are literally, this was budgeted in '23. We even had purchase orders approved and in place so that we could order these vehicles, but they did not arrive until 2024. And then, so essentially, the expense should have been repeated in '24 so we could do new purchase orders in order to actually pay it. And it was just an oversight. So this was funded and approved in 23, and now we're looking to just roll it over to 24 so we can actually pay the invoices for the vehicles that we've received.
Thank you. Is there any comments from the public or questions from the public regarding this matter? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Bub,
Yes.
John Askew,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes, and that moves forward. Up next, we have final passage of Bill number 30. Move to approve.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any comment from council regarding this?
None.
No.
Any comments from the administration?
Just on behalf of the Health Bureau, these are both essentially the grants are on a fiscal year that we receive of July 1st through June 30th. So these are specifically rollover funds from the previous period that we need to adjust our 24 budget so that they're added for the second half of the year for health to be able to expend.
Thank you. Is there any comments or questions from the public regarding this? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Bub,
Yes.
John Askew,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes, and that moves forward. Up next, we have introduction and passage of bills. We have introduction of bill number 31.
So introduce.
Bill number 31, introduced by Felicia Dennis, a bill amending the 2024 budget in the amount of $6,000 associated with a collaboration with the American Heart Association.
And that is a bill, and it will sit. Up next, we have introduction of bill number 32.
So introduce.
Bill number 32, introduced by Felicia Dennis, a bill amending the 2024 budget in the amount of $25,000 associated with a contribution from the York City Parks Conservancy for the Parks Master Plan.
And that is a bill as well, and that will sit also. Up next for our new business, we have resolution number 84.
So introduce, I'm sorry.
That is resolution number 34, introduced by Felicia Dennis. And that is, give me 1 second here. What's that? Resolution number 84.
84,
Yeah,
thank you.
84. And that is a resolution accepting the recommendations of HARB and approving certificates of appropriateness for the application filed for work to be done at 29 South Queen Street, 120 North George Street, and 221 West Philadelphia Street.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any comments or questions from council regarding?
Yes, I will have to abstain because I am the owner of 29 South Queen.
We have to vote on that abstention, yeah.
All right. Does council approve the abstention? All in favor,
Yes.
say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no.
That moves forward.
Well, we just have to vote now. Yeah, okay. Bub,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
I'm sorry, John Askew,
Abstain.
Buckingham,
Yes?
Washington,
Yes. And that moves forward. Moving along, up next, we have resolution number 85.
So introduced.
resolution number 85, introduced by Felicia Dennis. And that is, hold on a second here. Whereas the city desires to contract for services for our 2024 bridge maintenance for bridge number 361 North Pershing Avenue and bridge number 362 Smith Street and bridge number 363 West Jackson. And whereas bids received from two contractors with JBI Site Solutions being the lowest responsive bid, and whereas C.S. Davidson, the engineer, recommends the contract be awarded. Now therefore be it resolved, council hereby approves a contract for 2024 bridge maintenance to JBI Site Solutions in an amount of $95,917.
Is there a second?
Second?
It has been moved and seconded. Are there any comments from council regarding this?
None.
No. Hi, yes, I was hoping someone could speak to the bid. So I know they made the decision based on the bids they received. I just noticed that the one bid was significantly higher, and I wondered if somebody had made sure they were aware of the requirements of the RFP, because that one bid was over almost 4 times higher. So it seemed, yes, we're taking the lowest, but is there something off for them to be so significantly different?
Honestly, I think they just didn't want the job, so they bid to be in the mix with all of the other contractors, but to me, it just seemed like they didn't want the job, so they bid it super high. If they get it, they get it, type of thing. But other than that, no. They knew the requirements, they knew what the job entailed. They just, like, if you look at their numbers, if you go down through the tabulation, it's the same project, they just bid theirs super high.
Thank you. I just wondered if the other was just too low, that they were missing something, but thank you for clarifying that.
Hopefully not. I look at it and think they just bid it high. I'm hoping that the other one, the bid that we took was about what we expected to pay, so.
Great. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from council? Any further comments from administration? Are there any comments from the public? Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Bub,
Yes?
John Askew,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Washington,
Yes. And that moves forward. Up next, we have resolution number 86.
So introduced.
resolution number 86, introduced by Felicia Dennis. Whereas, let me see, is there a motion to read this by short title?
I make a motion to read
Second.
this by short title.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Resolution number 86, introduced by Felicia Dennis, a resolution of the Recreation and Parks Bureau, Department of Public Works, for a transfer of ARPA funds in the amount of $510,000 for 2 parks projects.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Are there any comments from council or questions from council regarding this?
Yes, and just for everyone who's been following us, I know it was some time ago, I took the survey, online about what parks wanted. I can't remember what year that was. It was maybe a year, 2 years ago?
Probably at least a year ago.
But, okay, so,
Two would be closer, I would think.
all right, so over that time, how much have we spent so far in this planning process?
$100,000, a little over $100,000.
And what was kind of accomplished during that period?
We have the plans set of, so like design plans of what pieces of equipment and what gets changed in each park, or what proposals are getting changed in each park. And then now we're leaning towards engineering to get that ball rolling.
Okay, so what's included? Because, it just seemed like a plan design, just seemed really vague. So what is included? What are we getting for $400,000? Roughly.
Right now, we're designing everything. I mean, it's so you're getting your designs, your schematics, what equipment we're going to be buying, what upgrades are we getting done, what landscaping will get modified.
Who's doing the work?
No one right now. It's YSM.
That's great.
I can't even think of what that actually stands for.
It's, I can answer some of this. I've served on this committee, and
Yeah.
it hasn't been 2 years. We started meeting about a year or so ago.
A year?
And it's Ann Yost's
Yeah,
company.
I can't think of what it
And
stands
Chuck,
for. It's
right,
YSM.
Yost, YMS, and they're on Newberry Street.
What is the name?
Ann Yost, Ann without an E.
Oh, and Yost.
Yes,
Okay.
yep, without an E. So anyway, this is only a master plan. So the next, we will get the final report in about 6 weeks. We
About
had
6 weeks,
We had
yeah.
our last meeting last week? I think
Yeah, last week.
We had our last final meeting. It's been an ongoing process that involved, in addition to city folks, residents, professionals, Pennsylvania DCNR was on the initial tour. It is Farquhar Park, Kiwanis Lake, Noonan Park, and Bance Park.
Bance Park,
So
yeah.
who is doing the work? First, we accept the master plan. It will come to council to approve.
Okay.
And it's just that, a master plan. Work can be done over the next decade. It can be done gradually. It will come to council. You'll see all the proposals for each park. And we can do, technically, we could say, no, we don't want the master plan. But hopefully, we'll accept the master plan and do work to do the
Yeah,
changes. And it did have public input. It's,
Had real good public input, actually
Yes.
from what I've looked at, the best input has been from the people that I think should get asked the most, and that was kids.
absolutely, they had great suggestions.
They had great ideas.
Great ideas.
How did you reach
We
the
as
kids?
adults don't look at the same thing for
No.
park use.
Tom Landis met with the kids, some of the kids in some of the programs that use the
Yeah.
park, et cetera,
Okay.
and some of the kids from the elementary schools that use the parks. And
Yeah, so he met with them, had them draw out what they would like to see in a park, and most of them were right on point. All the young kids were looking for the same thing, so they're looking for like splash pads or better equipment, things like that, ball fields, basketball courts.
And we're looking also at ways to protect some of our historic pieces that are in the parks as well. So I'm happy to talk more about it. It's not public yet, but it will be, and I think everybody will be excited
Yeah.
about it. I'm sorry, I'm looking at council,
six
not looking at the public. But it's been really great to be part of it and be part of other residents that are part of it. And for me, it was great to get to know Bance Park. I live by Farquhar Park, so I consider that my park.
Yeah.
Little did I know, there were 3 parks there. So, but it's, I considered it all one, but it's been a good experience. So it will be up to council in the future to approve work taken from the master plan, step by step, one item at a time. It's
Yeah,
not
and it
something that
doesn't-
they'll go in and do the whole thing.
Right, it doesn't have to be done all at once. It can be a 25-year project, but, just piece it in.
And another thing that we're getting out of the master plan is advice on getting potential funders
Yeah.
for the project as well.
Okay.
That would not include city tax dollars, but, funds that might be available to us through different avenues. So that's part of our bargain too. But, yeah, it's been an ongoing process. It's been a lot of fun to be part of. Exciting for our city residents, I think. Our parks are real treasures.
Good, thank you. It's nice to have a light shown on that.
Are there any other further comments from council?
None.
Any further comments from the administration? Any comments or questions from the public? Yes, ma'am.
I am hoping that one of the first steps that they're going to take is to make those parks more handicap accessible. I hardly can go to Fauquier Park because there's no entranceway that I can get into easily from the bus stop. And also, I don't know how they're going to be able to do it, but the pavilion at Fauquier Park is not at all handicap accessible. Tidings of Peace uses that for their sunrise service on Easter Sunday, and we have to carry 2 people in their wheelchairs up the stairs. And I know that's going to be a very difficult decision and a difficult project, but I hope that's not at the end of 25 years. I hope that comes early in whatever it is you're doing.
Thank you. Are there any other further comments from the public? Madam Clerk, please. Oh, yes, sir. I'm so sorry.
Manuel Gomez, City of York. I'm not sure how we got here. We had the process for ARPA. We allocated the funds, and then now we have these transfers going on the back end. They're pretty significant. And I know they've mentioned 400 grand, but the sum that we're seeing published is 510, so 510,000. It brings me to 2 questions. In the dashboard, however the latest updates appear, what I remember was showing for Bance Park was already 400 grand. Is that separate from this? Some sort of separate tranche, or am I just confusing these sums? 'Cause I see 400,000, I'm pretty sure, for Bance Park upgrades on its own. I don't know if these 510,000 are part of that, because these have not even been approved by council, or what's actually showing in that dashboard. I couldn't pull it up here. And also, what is it that's being impacted in terms of, let's say, GVI with the more graduations, less funerals? Is there anything there that's being impacted by this transfer of funds, or is it just something that I'm missing?
So,
Thank you.
you got it?
Yeah. So the 400,000 that was on there was this original plan. And that has been, I'm not sure how it's showing up on the dashboard, but this has been on the list of potential projects since the beginning, essentially. So this is finally any funding to Bance Park upgrades turned into the Parks Master Plan, in terms of, it was decided early on. Chaz Green had pointed out a couple parks, including Williams Park, that he wanted to request ARPA funds for upgrades. In the process of doing that, and I'm not sure how the story went, it turned into, if we're doing Bance Park, let's do a full master plan for the neighboring parks as well. So there's lots of places, even on my spreadsheet, I have Bance Park upgrades construction with a line through it on my sheet for this 400,000. So that is still the original money that was allocated for it. The only additional funds is that we have already approved 100,000 for what originally was Bance Park upgrades for engineering that has been put towards the Parks Master Plan engineering. And the one thing of note, and it'll come around with the one budget amendment that was introduced tonight, where we received money to go towards that project as a donation, is that there's several ways that you can determine what projects are approved as a funding source for ARPA. Some of them are very particular. Some of them, they look at census tracts within the city limits in the areas of the city, and which are qualified and which are just impacted. We're lucky that almost all of our areas, census tracts within the city limits are considered qualified, and the rest of them are considered impacted according to the guidelines behind ARPA. Some of our projects, depending on the category, impacted is fine. That's great. That checks the list. For these parks projects in particular, the parks have to be in what's considered a qualified census tract and not just impacted. So the Parks Master Plan is an overall project. The funding from ARPA is actually only being itemized for the expenses associated with Fauquier Park and Bance. So the expenses that are going towards Kiwanis and Noonan are going to have to be paid from different sources, including the donations that we're receiving. So we have itemized bills from YSM that we're receiving, and we're making sure that the ones for Fauquier and Bance are getting paid out of the ARPA funds, and that the Kiwanis and Noonan are being paid out of other sources. So just so the actual 100,000 we got originally could go a little further because it's only part of the parks plan. The same with this 400,000. Anything as part of this in the next stage, in the design stage, will only be for the designs for Fauquier, which is the biggest expensive one that there is, and for Bance. And then we're going to have to, and there's processes in place for additional funding sources for the same expenses associated with Kiwanis and Noonan. On the note of the ARPA dashboard, we had a good meeting this morning as elected officials where I was able to finalize the spreadsheet that I've been using that essentially is keeping track of every approved project that we have for ARPA, how much has been approved in the budget, how much we've expended, and then how much is left over, and if there's any additional amounts that we're planning to add to 25. To the projects we already have. And so I have that finalized. I am sending that off to Answer Advisories. They are going to update the dashboard because it is confusing in terms of how they have the projects, even having a project that we just had penciled and didn't have inked yet. So they've been keeping good track of the expenses. That has definitely been up to date for any of the projects that are on there. The only problem is that they were also showing it like each project in multiple rows. Like this is FY24, this is 20. We're putting it all together. This is the project. This has been what has been officially approved by council. This is what's been expended of that. This is any future allocations that we're going to have. Because what we're going to get to here is by the end of this year, so the reporting associated with fourth quarter 2024, the reporting that goes to the federal government is going to have a project listed for all $35.3 million. We've obviously been keeping them up to date as they've been approved and put into budgets, and we've been spending them. So in order to do that, we will either have that we've already had all the paperwork involved and we've spent it, because we do have quite a few projects that we have completely completed. I was putting X's next to stuff and was very excited about that. But then there's also a bunch that we have agreements or contracts in place that is officially obligating the funds. Then there's going to be some that we are going to be completing what's considered an interagency MOU. So essentially what it's saying is formalizing the fact that we have a plan in place for this funding. We just do not have it in the budget yet, or we do not have actual contracts in place. Some of that will be focused around, obviously, if we have any personnel cost for 25 or 26, that we have nobody to contract that out with. It's ourselves. So it's a very formal document and process that the Answer Advisories has provided to us. They've done this for Scranton as well. They actually use them as a template so that we provide, there's actually guidelines to what is acceptable as an interagency MOU by the feds in order to formally obligate the projects. So we'll have to double back with them, but it's very possible that anything that's not in the 25 budget for next year, that we'll want to present those interagency MOUs to council as a blessing in terms of this as part of the formal budget packet. Truthfully, there's not much that could potentially be rolled into 26. We're trying to get it all spent and done and on with our lives, as much as ARPA has been a blessing. So I hope that answers some of your questions, so hang tight. As soon as I know that the ARPA dashboard is updated and it makes sense, and that I would be capable of presenting it to others so that they can understand it, I do plan on having a presentation before a council meeting so that I can kind of review it with everybody, so that hopefully that'll help. And then also being able to, you know, point people to that recording in case they need additional, if they're not here to see it, to view it. So very good questions. And yes, anything that specifically says Vance Park after, if this budget amendment is approved, is still the original projects that are listed on the dashboard.
Thank you, Business Administrator Robertson.
Oh, one more thing. You said 510. This is a combination. It's 400 towards the Parks Master Plan for plan. And then also, we are in the process of putting back in place the Thaxton Park. And so the 110 that is listed specifically for that project is going towards the, I believe the overall engineering, and then also that we're looking to do an African American history walk within the park, and so we're looking to consult with other professional service contracts to get that planned out. So this is definitely just the very beginning, just a little bit money put into the very beginning process, and that there are going to be future funding sources for the actual work to put the park in. So that's how the 510 comes about.
Thank you.
And I also have an update with the YSM. It stands for Yost, Stradowski, and Mears, which are the names of the professional landscape architects in the company. We worked, I think that's Chuck's last name, Stradowski. So Ann Yost, who is president, and Chuck Stradowski worked with everyone on the master plan, and they do professional landscaping services across central Pennsylvania, not just locally. So just thought I'd give you a little update there.
Thank you, Vice President
Yes,
Buckingham.
thank you for these.
Is there any other comments from public or council?
No.
Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Bub,
Yes.
John Askew,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes. And that moves forward. Up next, we have resolution number 87.
So introduced.
Is there, okay, that is resolution number, I'm sorry, 87, okay. Resolution number 87, introduced by Betsy Buckingham, whereas the city enter into a billing and service revenue agreement effective for the period of October 18, 2019 through October 18, 2024. And whereas the 2019 agreement was a contract under which York Water agreed to undertake billing on a per unit compensation basis on behalf of the city for the wastewater services and refuse management services for the city sewer and garbage customers, and was later amended in 2023. And whereas to have the current services continue through December 31st, 2024, now therefore be it resolved that the extension letter to the billing revenue services agreement is hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Are there any comments or questions from council?
Yes. How much is the contract for this? How much do we pay York Water Company to do this?
We pay them about $32,000 a month.
$32,000 a month. Okay, so before 2019, how did we manage this in-house before York Water Company? How many staff, or how many staff hours were taken?
That was
Yes.
my answer too.
Poorly.
So beforehand, actually it was, except for minus the one position, it's the same exact staff that Treasurer Jeff Coat has now, was part of the process. We were using Microsoft Dynamics as the accounting system and for the billing system for this. And there's a long history of that being a problem in general. But specifically when they moved over to that system in 2015, it started to set us up for failure because the actual way that we were able to set up our customers within that system was not what we needed. We had to set them up as actual owners as opposed to properties. So you can just imagine the kind of issues that would come between being able to have a history of what was actually billed and paid within a property. That was part of it. And then they just had a long period of not being able to follow up with the process in order to, that would get to the point that we were not getting enough of the actual revenue in, which is why we looked to go towards New York Water to assist us with the sewer and the refuse billing at the time. Sewer, keeping in mind that the sewer billing at the time was based off of, and still is, your water usage from the month before. So New York Water always played a role in terms of us having an agreement that they would provide us with the water usage for the previous month. We would use our system to calculate the bills, and then they would need to be sent off to the printer, and then sent out, and then money coming in. So once we are no longer obligated for the refuse billing, the sewer billing, it actually makes the billing much simpler in terms of us having flat rates associated with our sewer. When we went to York Water after selling the plant and said, hey, now that our agreement isn't completely accurate because we only need you to do the refuse billing, at the time they were not willing to reduce the fee that they were charging for two billings. So we've been looking since then in terms of how can we get ourselves out of this in order to bring it back in-house, take advantage of our new financial system, OpenGov, in order to start fresh with it in-house and being able to save what we're looking at as a couple $100,000 a year in terms of the costs we are currently paying for the billing. To expand upon this, obviously, with our contract starting in October, we're looking for an extension, which they have agreed to the end of the fiscal year, so that we can present at September's committee meeting proposed changes to the refuse ordinance to allow us to make changes that will assist with us being able to process billing in-house. And we are working closely between the business administration in our finance office and Treasurer Jeffcoat in the Treasurer's office in order to come up with a plan that would be beneficial to the city in terms of we are going to be able to maintain the operations. We are taking into consideration that besides obviously there'll be expense with printing the bills and issuing them out, that we're going to look and see what manpower we actually need in order to be successful. So we're not ruling out adding more staff to assist with the process. And fortunately for us, we're starting with such a large amount of an expense we currently have that I believe it's very possible for us to roll this in-house and potentially add personnel to assist with it and still save money. So at this point, we're just requesting to extend the billing agreement with York Water until the end of the year so that we can work towards making changes internally so that we can take over the billing in 2025. So there's more to come with the details of that. Again, we are looking to present that at September committee meeting for consideration in October with the effective date of January 1st.
Thank you. Are there any other council comments or questions?
None.
No.
Any further comments from the administration? Any comments or questions from the public regarding this? Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Bub,
Yes.
John Askew,
No.
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes. And that moves forward. Up next, we have resolution number 88.
So introduced.
resolution number 88. All right. You know we're doing this one by short title. Is there a motion to introduce by short title only?
I make a motion to introduce by short title only.
Second.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. right, and so that is resolution number 88, introduced by Betsy Buckingham, a resolution approving in accordance with section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, a plan of financing of the City of York General Authority, declaring that it is desirable for the health, safety, and welfare of the people in the area to be served by such facilities, to have such facilities provided by or financed by the City of York General Authority.
Is there a second?
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. I understand we have representation here from York Academy. Would you mind?
Good evening. My name is Melissa Hughes, and I'm from PFM Financial Advisors. We're the financial advisors to the York Academy School. And so what you're being asked to do this evening relative to the school is they want to issue debt to put on a small addition to a property that they already own to allow for expansion of their 7th and 8th grades. They're going to move 7th and 8th grades into this space that they're planning to build. And in order to issue tax-exempt debt, like the city could do on their own, as a 501c3 issuer, they have to go through a conduit authority. And when the York Academy Regional Charter School has issued debt in the past, they have used the York General Authority as the conduit. And so your approval tonight is part of the IRS process that allows the charter school to issue through them as a conduit authority. You have no obligation towards making any of the debt service payments on behalf of the school or the authority, and the authority has no obligation towards debt service payments either. That is only an obligation of the school.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are there any comments or questions from council?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm concerned because the General Authority is no longer an independent body. It's now part of the Economic and Community Development Department. So I'm always worried that any liability might spread. But also, I think I'm really concerned because, we're giving a summary, but I would like to see, and I would ask if we could table, I would like to read the bond issue and the pro forma. Now, we didn't have a chance to ask for that because we received the agenda on Friday. It was a holiday weekend, everything was closed. Nona, who has those documents, is away, on bereavement. I would like to see those to make sure and read the fine print myself before we, begin to endorse a loan, the General Authority, being a conduit for this much money. I want to make sure the city is definitely not on the hook, and I'd rather see the real documents myself. I would feel more comfortable with that.
As the introducer of this, I had some questions today, so I did speak to our legal counsel this morning at elected officials meeting. It has to go for our approval because the city created the authority, but our legal counsel assured me we are not responsible. We are not a co-signer. We are in no way responsible for any of the payments that are made. That it was only because we created the authority that we have to that the city created the general authority that we have to give the approval. But our legal counsel this morning did relay that we are in no way responsible.
But still, wouldn't it be better if we had access to these documents and we're expected to, pass a vote on them? I would rather always, take the time to do the reading. I read the fine print on anything I sign.
Thank you. Is there any other council comment?
I would ask what role the General Authority has. Do they have to prepare any paperwork related to this? Do they have to process any of the payments or do any sort of audit work on this to make sure that it's proper? I'm just wondering what the role of the General Authority is as a conduit.
Yep. Yeah, so Tracy and she'll address.
So Stacy McNeil, I'm solicitor for the City of York General Authority, and I have been the General Authority solicitor for about 20 years now. One of the primary purposes for the City of York General Authority when it was created was actually the issuance of conduit financing. In exchange for the issuance of this conduit financing, which is non-recourse financing, meaning the General Authority, the City of York, none of the officers have any liability for this debt. The General Authority is paid an issuance fee by the borrower. The borrower pays for any and all costs associated with it that are created, or rather incurred by the General Authority, and then also pays an ongoing annual compliance fee. There is something, so I'm working right now actually with Nona, and just to clarify, the General Authority is a separate independent legal entity. Our staff liaison is through the DCED, not DCED, it's through the your Economic Development Department, so Nona is our primary staff liaison, but the General Authority is a separate legal body with obviously separate appointed officials on that board. The only thing that the General Authority does is we had a special meeting to approve a resolution to approve the borrowing. The costs of the advertisement for that meeting will, of course, be paid by the borrower. The General Authority volunteer members on that board will meet when the paperwork was ready to sign the paperwork. I, as the solicitor, review the documentation for the General Authority to ensure that there is no liability for the authority and that things are done properly from the authority standpoint, and I do issue an opinion letter on behalf of the authority. All of the costs for that are paid by the borrower. If there should need to be any city council, city review, I'm sure the borrower would be amenable to paying those legal fees as well. Historically, the city solicitor has not reviewed the actual loan documents. There are only draft loan documents available at this time. Closing is anticipated likely later this month. But they will be thoroughly vetted by legal counsel prior to execution, of course, as is the way that we've done this when we have issued conduit financing before. So we don't actually, from a General Authority standpoint, we don't actually see a pro forma. It's not the General Authority's really obligation to ensure the wherewithal of the borrower, frankly, to undertake the debt, because there is a lender, there is a traditional bank that is involved, that is the lender here, and the lender, of course, goes through that typical underwriting process. The General Authority, again, because we are not responsible in any way for the debt, really is looking at the project itself. Is this a project that is important for the city, that the General Authority and the city will want to support through the issuance of the tax-exempt financing? And that's really their primary focus when they're looking at the conduit financing. But we certainly, again, we welcome the questions from council and the interaction with council, and I guess making one of the goals for the General Authority that we've been working on since this shift in the mission of the authority. So you may be aware the General Authority was previously the owner of the parking facilities in the city. And now with the transition of those parking facilities, the General Authority is focusing on this conduit financing mission. And so we welcome the opportunity to educate city staff, council members about this ability of the General Authority to issue tax-exempt debt in limited situations, potentially to the benefit of the city and entities and non-for-profits here in the city.
Thank you. Are there any further comments, questions?
None.
Council?
Just quickly on the General Authority. So we don't, I missed it. If there's no more board, is it correct? There are no more board members. Is that what we're saying? That it's all turned over to staff?
No, that's not correct at all. We have 5 members on the board.
Okay, and they would have, did they review this and they voted for this?
Yes, we had a special meeting of the General Authority Board and they approved a resolution to move forward with the borrowing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other, any comments or questions from the public? Yes.
Manuel Gomez, City of York. What's been the fee customarily for acting as the conduit for this type of financing bond?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I couldn't hear that.
I think he asked what the fee is.
Oh, thank you.
The fee is typically based on a number of basis points based on the amount of the issuance, and it does vary depending on the size of the issuance. My recollection is that our fee, the general authority's fee for this issuance is approximately $19,500.
Thank you. Any further comments from the public? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, can I do one more question?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. And this may be inappropriate for the timing of it. So you want this extra money to build in the area where you are. Is that something that you have, are you doing the plan, a master plan, or are you going to need zoning approval? And perhaps this is premature for me to ask that, but
Yeah, so the school, so we're the school's financial advisor,
Right.
just like, the city has a financial advisor, so I'm a debt person. So
Right,
I know
okay.
about that parts of it. So I'm not 100% sure about all the zoning things, but kind of where we're at in the process is they need to get the money first, and then, go through kind of the next steps. So if there is more zoning, they'll be back for it. They haven't gotten it already.
okay, thank you.
I know that much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because this one document, the project narrative, does talk about October 2024 groundbreaking, so that's in 1 month.
Yeah, on some of it. So they already own, so it's a facility that they already own, and they're going to, for lack of better words, gut it out and put 6 or 7 classrooms in there, is what it's going to be.
Yep, all right.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Bub,
Yes.
Chonescu,
No.
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes, and that moves forward. Do we have any requests for future meetings? I don't think so. Do we have any council comment this evening?
I do. So at the last meeting, I wasn't here physically. I phoned in. And it was during the meeting, we relieved some nonprofits of property taxes, real estate taxes. And what I intended to do was to make a comment to encourage all of the nonprofits in our city to consider making contributions for the services that they receive, even though they do not pay real estate taxes. Personally, I'll speak personally, my church does make contributions. It's not what their tax would be, but it's pretty generous. And it's important to us as a congregation because we receive the same services that all taxpayers do. The roads are maintained. We have fire and safety coverage as needed. And I would just hope that for anyone listening related to a nonprofit in York that you would consider making a contribution to the city for the services that you receive from us.
Thank you, Vice President Buckingham. Any further council comment?
Just saying welcome back.
Any comment from the administration? All right, it's 6:58 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a wonderful evening.